Secretary for Trump's 2020 campaign, Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, great to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Great to join you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been quite a day, to say the least. Let's start, though, with what, one of the top trends on Twitter today. Not just one of the top trends. There were several in this category. They include Petty Pelosi, Pelosi tantrum, Nancy the Ripper, Nancy Pelosi is a disgrace, and also, there was a lot of other comments. But are you surprised by the amount of backlash that Nancy Pelosi is getting based on her actions last night?
I'm not, because it was so transparent, not just to Republicans, but to independents, to moderate Democrats, to anyone who's not a liberal, hardcore leftist, that Nancy Pelosi was entirely inappropriate. That was clear last night. And what is so remarkable to me is it takes a lot to be that out of touch, that elitist, that holier than thou, to sit there and be so smug and so angry, to get to the point where you stand up and rip a speech about American heroes, about beautiful policies that have come out of the Trump administration, like for our veterans and our military. It takes a special kind of elitism. It's someone who's been in Washington in the swamp for decades and decades and decades that has to be that blind to how their own behavior would be perceived.
Now, at the State of the Union last night, or after, I should say, the State of the Union, C-SPAN, Capitol Journal, love it if you tune into C-SPAN. Well, they tried to gauge the American public's reaction to everything that went down. Now, these are the Democrats. If you ever watch C-SPAN, they have separate lines for Democrats and Republicans to call in. But these are the Democrats actually calling C-SPAN to voice their concerns. Take a listen.
It's outrageous. I will never vote Democrat again, and I'm sick of it.
I am changing my mind. I mean, I'll probably still be a Democrat. Before I'm electing for a goddamn Democrat, never again.
I was a registered Democrat. I've gone independent. I'm leaning GOP now.
With a simple rip of a paper, Nancy Pelosi has pretty much sealed the deal of a re-election of Donald Trump.
Well, I know, Kayleigh, you're used to hearing these types of comments when you go to these Trump rallies. One of the things you guys have been doing is talking to people who never voted for a Republican before, who are switching over to the Republican Party. But again, I was, not a lot shocks me these days, but I was quite surprised to hear the intensity of those calls from Democrats coming into C-SPAN, how upset they were by Nancy Pelosi's actions.
Yeah, that is actually incredible. And what it tells me is something that I gleaned from my time out on the road, was in nearly 30 states last year. This week, I can't even count how many states I've been in. It's, a lot all the time. And I routinely, as you noted, hear at Trump rallies from Democrats who became Republicans. I go to blue states like New Jersey, where I see 2,000 people sleeping outside. But that echoes what I see, which is Democrats crossing the aisle, voting for President Trump. And this, by the way, is coupled with the fact that President Trump has hit his highest approval rating in Gallup recorded history for this president during his tenure, 51% in the Zogby poll. So this is happening. There is definite momentum toward President Trump. Polling shows it. Our rallies show it. And those calls you just played show it. Nancy Pelosi and Democrats have lost the American people.
Now, I know you know who Matt Walsh is. This is one of the things that actually made me think about this today, because there's been some debate on how smart and how genius Nancy Pelosi is, how good of a tactician she is when it comes to politics. But this is something that Matt, how this game works. And this is what made me think here, Kayleigh, because, I was on here last night just praising the speech and how effective I think it was. But what do you think about Matt Walsh's point there that Nancy Pelosi may have done this to change the subject?
Yeah, you see, I don't agree, because this is the State of the Union. It was broadcast, of course, on all kinds of outlets, certainly on television last night, unvarnished, uninterrupted. The American people saw the State of the Union. And if anyone had any thoughts that the media today, CNN and MSNBC, were going to go out and play glowing remarks that the president made on their networks, I think they're kidding themselves. They were never intending to do that, and certainly not on acquittal day. So I don't know that her rip distracted from the good content of the speech. It just exposed the contrast between the good content of the speech and the antics of Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, you could tell there were some things she was doing, like pre-tearing the pages ahead of time to make sure she could do it. I really want to find out more and know what went into this, how contrived it was. Last thing, Kayleigh, we'll talk about real quickly with you, of course, is Mitt Romney. We talked about this. Let's take a listen to Romney explaining the way he voted today.
Does anyone seriously believe that I would consent to these consequences other than from an inescapable conviction that my oath before God demanded it of me?
Kayleigh, what's next for Mitt Romney?
Yeah, I don't know that he has much of any future at this point. Mitt Romney is clearly a very jealous man. He's someone who wanted to be president, could not cross the finish line. President Trump took the job that he always wanted. So he's jealous. He's petty. And how dare he betray the constituents in Utah who stand behind President Trump? He has no future in this party. He has no future, I don't think, in politics, and certainly will never be president of the United States.
Well, he's going to be in the Senate for a long period of time. It might get a little awkward over the next few years. I don't know who is going to be working with Romney, at least from the Republican side of the aisle, as long as President Trump is in the White House. Kayleigh, great to see you as always. Look forward to our next conversation. We'll talk again real soon.
Thank you, John.
All right.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to NewsmaxTV.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.